Hello, Adam Leonard, and everybody out there in YouTube land. This is Raphael, and it's time for you to rewrite your life live show. And Adam is in the UK, and we're going to talk about something we both feel is very critical to people's in their life, their challenges, their growth, their fulfillment in life. And right now, everything that's happening in the world, it's a critical element, not everything, but a critical element in dealing with living your life with love and fulfillment instead of fear and deception, for example. Adam, what are your thoughts on mind, body, spirit cohesion?
Yeah, I absolutely love the whole mind, body, spirit identity model or way of perceiving ourselves as separated into different states of consciousness or awareness, essentially.
Right.
So to me, it's we can't just label or understand ourselves as just the body or just our thoughts or just our feelings. It doesn't do us justice. And when we're looking at use the word kind of like almost deception there, and it's an illusion and things like that, which we didn't say directly, but it's assumed that many of the reasons I believe that mind, body, spirit cohesion or unity and awareness of these states working correctly with each other is important is because when we have internal discord between our thoughts, feelings, our body and our soul, our spirit, all of that, it tends to ripple out into our environment and create that effect, i.e., the balance that we have on the inside of these three states turns into a state of being. And that state of being is what we project out into the universe. It's what we receive, what we believe ultimately. And often our beliefs are the balance of those cohesive states.
Mhm. Yeah. So basically, it's kind of like we're a mirror of we're reflecting what we're experiencing, our beliefs, our identity, and yes, by deception, when I use the word deception, I think of my corporate life. It was all about deception. The media, it was all about influence, trying to convince, trying to perhaps polarize, which is what
Mm.
politics do. And so, growing, like you say, growing your awareness, growing a state of awareness is only possible. I mean, is more possible through maintenance of your mind, body, spirit. I mean, let's face it. What is our body? My friend Stacy Russell in New York this morning, she was talking about the body being an instrument. She's a yoga instructor as well, and she's talking about our bodies are an instrument, a tool for us to use. And if we don't control our mind, if we don't control our body, it's going to control our life. And a lot of you out there know what that's like, not being in control of your mind, your body, and spirit. Where does spirit come in, Adam?
For me, there are different layers to each, the mind, body, and spirit. Um, so in a brief description, just kind of like add answer your question. To me, the mind encapsulates both the thought and the feeling experience. The body is both the matter body and the energetic body. So
Mhm.
therefore the chakra system, the energetic field, etc. And then the spirit composes of the soul body and our connection to spirit and oneness. Okay, so there are two states. So to me, the soul body is really what we really are, right? It's a part of us. If we were to take away our flesh sack that we're in, our physical and form, we are left with, and there's a physical form and an energetic form, right? That the electromagnetic field that comes with it, the energy that pulses around us. That's not actually who we are. That's still part of our form. We've almost got like a flesh suit and an energy suit that
Mhm.
our soul resides in, and the soul, to me, resides. We connect to it from our heart center, right? And going up through the crown. But essentially, that's our true personality. It's our growth centric and loving centric side of ourselves that is unfettered, that is driving us all the time. It's where our passions and our ambitions and our hopes and dreams all come from, is the soul. And that's my perspective. And it's the thing that leads people to do things that are the great things in the world. Like, for example, the body, my perspective is that the body itself is an efficiency engine, right? It likes to be efficient with its resources. It doesn't want to spend too much calories or ATP of energy, or it only wants to spend exactly which serves it, right? And the mind itself likes to be correct, right? The egoic mind likes to be correct. So if you just look at the mind and the body, they would never do something like, racing through the North Pole, right? The body would go, I'd use so much resources. There's no much food there. I'd use all of my energy. Why would I do that? The mind would go, I'm likely to lose and possibly die. Why would I do that? The thing that makes us do these great things is the soul, right? The part of us that wants to see life as a great big adventure for growth, to do something for others, do something that hasn't been done before. It's the soul is the part of us that is our greatness in love and ambition.
That's interesting. I look at that as growth versus comfort. This is a growth centric experience rather than a comfort centric experience. But that's not how, well, most of my fellow Americans see life. They want to be comfortable, and that's not what we teach. That's not what we support. And so if we look for something greater than ourselves, well, let's look at that. We got to admit, most people probably don't think about their body as an energy body, do they, Adam? That's a great start. If you read Joe Dispenza, he may give you a clue about that, close your eyes and see yourself as an energy body. Let go of what you think you are, that you're somebody, and be a nobody, be a part of the energy that surrounds all of us. And that's a whole nother podcast, right? About what we are, what is energy. And like you mentioned, that greater than ourselves, there's soul, and then there's oneness with everything. We are a part of everything in that energy. So most people, they probably have maybe never thought about that. They are an energy body. So that's the first step, right? Is just to feel and be aware, conscious of, and which is quite possible for anybody to do, that they are energy, and that's what they are. And then where do they go from there in bringing their spirit, their soul into this cohesion that we're talking about?
Yeah, I would say that the moment that you can kind of tell the symptoms, a good way of putting it is, what are the symptoms of a lack of cohesion, right? That's a good way to go around it.
Great.
When you're in a cohesive state, you are deeply fulfilled and you're passionate, you're loving, you're giving, you're doing things that are contributing to the greatness of humanity, right?
I love it. Thank you. I feel better already.
Exactly, right? When we're in cohesion, that's your state. If you're not in a cohesive state, one clear sign that you're not connected to your soul is when you have no energy or motivation, and you're being driven by raw willpower to get up. I just got to crack on. I've got to do all this today. And it's sticking to a target in a regime that's got no passion, no love of life behind it, but you're doing it because you feel you have to, or you should, or it's the right thing to do. That's because you're being led by ego and willpower, right? And determination, stubbornness. That's when you're not being driven by heart and soul, right? And that's when life turns into a grind. You're just literally grinding the cogs through life just to get by, and you survive on coffee and, all that kind of stuff.
And may I point out that there's other reasons why I've talked to people who they bring up chronic fatigue. I've got chronic fatigue. Now, there's a label, and almost always I discover that they're on some form of medication. They're on some form of pharmaceuticals. For example, I've got really high cholesterol, and I'm just like, it's so unfair, Adam. I take care of my health. I do everything I know. I get exercise. I eat right. and I couldn't bring my cholesterol down. And this is not coffee, it's my mocha drink with dandelion and hemp and all kinds of stuff. But I was so afraid of what the doctors told me. After a year, I couldn't bring my cholesterol down, and it was frightening me. And so I took one of their drugs, what they said statin, which they said had a new statin, which is the go-to for high cholesterol. And this is the first time I've taken a pharmaceutical. And I was told that this new statin doesn't have the same side effects. And I'm just pointing out that there's other reasons for these symptoms. And being aware of your environment is a big for each individual is a big go-to for finding out why you don't have energy. I went to the pharmacist to get it, and I'm just going against everything I told everybody, right? To get away from the doctors. And I started taking it, and the pharmacist told me something interesting. He said, I'll tell you about this. He goes, take it at night before you go to bed. Big smile he got and said, then you won't have any problems. I'm like, wow. So something happened. I took it for about a week, and then one day I forgot it. And so guess what? I took it the next morning, and that was last week. About 3 days ago. Oh my gosh, I couldn't believe what happened to me, Adam. I've never felt this. What you just described, what my clients always describe as chronic fatigue. I was just shuffling my feet and I was working on something I was passionate about, a ramp on her back deck overlooking the beautiful view of the mountains. And I had no energy, and that's never happened to me. I don't remember ever feeling that way. It was so frightening. I thought, am I having a stroke or something? So there are other reasons why we may have these symptoms, but you're talking about, what I'm hearing is a total lack of something greater than ourselves, something greater than the circumstances that are imposing a victim mold upon us, or a feeling or a fear that we don't have any control over our life. And we can motivate ourselves, like you said, you just have to use pure will. And I did. I didn't understand what was going on. And by God, I wasn't going to accept it. And so I just used pure will, and I just made my feet move faster and, worked harder. But that's motivation. And that only lasts so long, and it's exhausting. But what we need is inspiration to inspire, to breathe in the light, the love into our heart. That's what I'm hearing.
Yeah, and there are to just touch base with some things that you were referring to. I mean, there ultimately, when we are deeply connected to the soul state, it can do some profound things, such as, the mother that's trying to get her child out of a burning car. If they desperately, passionately want to save them, you can force your body to do things,
Yes.
that it previously wouldn't do, because it gets the power from somewhere else that defies the laws of physics in many ways, right? And that kind of shows the power of the soul. But you then also have the alignment where there's a statement, I'm pretty sure it's a Tony Robbins statement, that it's almost impossible to feel happy inside an unhealthy body, right? And it's a little bit like, trying to drive a car that you don't maintain properly, right? It's just not going to work. You can have an enthusiastic driver that really has got connecting to their soul, but if they've got a car that's just like the wheels falling off and it's not maintained, it's just not going to get you there very well. And so, this is where we're talking about cohesion. And it's one of these things that gut health is a huge thing, right? Because most of our intuition and it's been well known now that we have got, a heart center synaptic relay and a gut center, gut, brain, heart, brain, and brain, right?
Yes,
and
we actually have lots of neurons in our heart or in our body. We do have brains in our gut, in our heart.
That's right. And if you have got, like in the modern diet, load of things that destroy your gut bacteria and your gut health, and you're constantly getting all these sugar cravings, and you're on all of these things, these sweeteners and high sugars and all these kind of things, your body is so out of sync that it can't connect to the energetic body, can't connect to its natural physical senses properly. It's like you're running like a chronically fatigued like operating system, and then that means that the communication from your body's senses to the soul, and the soul may very well go, right, in order for you to get to where you want to go, let's just say your soul is passionate about making a beautiful change in the world, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or being someone great that gives to the world.
Mm-hmm.
If that soul's trying to then send you a message of how you can get there, it will do that through intuition, intuitive steps. And we feel intuitive, energetic steps through gut instincts and through intuitive pull. And if the gut in itself is all screwed up, then you don't feel those intuitive pulls so easily. You just, and so this is where it's a holistic cohesion of. And again, if your mind is so fixated on trying to keep up with the Joneses, then you're not actually listening to your feelings or your intuitive feel states. And if your feelings are so disconnected from you because they're so toxically inflamed and just driven by just satiating hunger and unusual desires and all these kind of things all the time, again, you're out of sync with yourself. So the communication between all states doesn't occur.
Right. So, yeah, it's almost as if we look at the different layers of environment. Who do we hang out with? What influence do they have on our life and our thoughts? So what relationships are we in? What relationship do we have with ourselves? And the environment of what energy are we bringing in? Are we not breathing deep? Are we eating processed foods full of chemicals? And folks, as a nutritionist, I'd say count chemicals, not calories. So gut health. Now, I've always told people, as a energy and yoga instructor and a health coach in the past, now I'm a spiritual host. I've always told people, please don't leave the body out of the mind, body, spirit experience. Yes, Stephen Hawking is a visionary genius, and he's in a wheelchair, people tell me. But guess what? You're not Stephen Hawking. You are you, and we have to take care of ourselves. And so let's take care of what we can. Let's control what we can, our environment, what foods we put into our body. And so, for example, what I did with this frustration, and I talked to my oldest brother who did inform me, and he's been in the medical industry all his life. He's worked at the hospital. He runs the oncology ward for many years up in Washington. He basically helps people pass with cancer. And what he told me is, yes, my whole family and my parents they passed because of something Joe Dispenza may not agree with, is genetic high cholesterol. And that was hard for me to accept. It's very hard for me to accept. I don't want to start taking pharmaceuticals that are going to make me worthless just because I don't want to die. So what are other options that I have? And one thing that my friends pointed out, Moira Hutchinson pointed out, go to your gut. Ask you. Alina Chapman, when I mentioned it to her, she called me up and we started doing sessions, and she's saying, Raphael, you've told me about these wonderful spirit guides that I've met several times personally. Why don't you ask them for help? I'll go, why don't you ask them to scrub your vessels clean of this cholesterol and then do everything you can on a dietary basis? The mangoella or whatever fruit there is that you can use to lower cholesterol, pears, look into those, Google it for goodness sake. But also, does this resonate, Adam? I immediately started thinking of my belief systems. What are my belief systems trying to tell me that I was not able to help myself? My cholesterol was still double what it should be, which I was amazed, because that's not going to, the doctors told me, stop going to the gym, stop working out after my cliff fall. And I said, no, I'm not going to stop. No, I won't. Bruce Lee didn't. Lots of people didn't when they broke their back. they didn't stop. They just worked harder. And the Koreans taught me that. Working with Ilchi Lee's group is when I hurt my back, I do certain exercises very vehemently. I even built a rock wall and I healed myself in one day. So I'm not going to stop my holistic health and exercise. I'm not going to stop my movement because I'm not going to debilitate. I've seen it happen to 1,000 people at least. And some of my clients who listen to their doctor, and have you heard this one? 1 year bed rest. How many people? I know that we know people who have been put on 1 year bed rest. And I'm like, oh no, where's your body going to go then? And so I started looking at a spiritual level. I started asking for help. I started listening to my gut. And I started asking myself, to me, is a very important question. What is it that my body is telling me that I'm not paying attention to? Somebody's giving me a message here, a big message. And this could have to do with the contentions in my life that I find difficult to overcome. My anger, which comes from my fear that I don't have some control over some areas of my life, some loss of control. And so I started looking at what is it that my spirit's telling me, my higher self? Why is it doing something? It's going like, Raphael, wake up! Here, you need another hit. Pardon me for that. So, what do you think about that? How do you deal with the messages that we are getting in our life, and specifically with, for example, the body? And
Well, I would say
symptoms.
Symptomatically, there is again, we do need to make sure that, first of all, that we have a healthy diet in order for us to, that's number one. If we want to trust our gut instinct, we need to make sure our gut's healthy, or otherwise we're not going to get any true, we're just going to get static back, right? So, and that can sometimes take time. It can take months on end to get your gut health correct. So again, that's not something to be underestimated. Now, there is a way of connecting to your energetic body, and feeling that, because let's just put it in another way, right? Energy from your soul comes in by the heart, zips up to the brain, and then down into the gut in order to kind of connect with us, right? And so, and it can also happen the other way around, where it goes in here, down to the gut, up to the brain, right? But if we can feel it and get ourselves used to our energetic body in the heart, then we can avoid, if we're in a situation where that we know our gut health is not quite right to send the right instincts, we can just get used to feeling the energetic flow here, right? But in order to do that, we need to be in a state of oneness in meditation, to feel our energetic body, to know when we're in a sense of flow state, and when our vibration's high. And again, what I mean by that is when our mental and emotional state is in a state of peace or higher, that is when we can make sure that we're going to be able to get an understanding from our inner self or higher self that is going to be in alignment with peace and prosperity. Because essentially, if you're trying to get answers to what's going on in my life, what should I be doing, make sure that you are asking those questions when in a state that's you want the answers to be giving you. If you see what I mean. So if you're in a peaceful state, ask questions then. If you're in a discordant, angry, upset state, confused, whilst trying to ask questions you're going to get confused, angry, frustrated answers, right?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's very important to make, and most people, what they do is, it's very natural, is they feel confused, anxious, lost, out of control. And in that state, they try to ask questions to give me the answers to it.
Right.
You're just
and
going
you're
to
not going to get there.
right? So, there is a way to bypass the whole body alignment thing. But slightly back to your question, is that quite often when we have something in the energetic body, we have a lack of cohesion within the soul, the mind, and the body that keeps going. We don't see it, right? It's an unconscious thing. We're just kind of, we're naturally used to, or we tolerate feeling slightly disconnected to ourselves. That builds like a big crack. And eventually that big crack of energy forms into an injury in our body, right? And there is a technique that, where that, this is why we have the instinct. Whenever we've got an injury, we put our hand on it. Now, one thing is because there's a meridian, there's hand meridians that are, powerful centers, heart center, right? Healing center.
Meridian lines. Yeah.
That's right. But when we put our hands on an injury and we do something that my spirit guide often tells me is to feel deeply into something, right? When we feel, and this goes back to matter, right? We do particles. If you look into an atom and then you want to look deeper into it, you see the neurons, the electrons, etc. If you go deeper into that, you'll see the quarks. And if you go deeper still, right, you'll get to the field, the nothingness, potentiality in itself, right? Where there is literally no matter at all. It's just wave, right? Now, the same thing occurs when it comes to feelings, right? All feelings are a variation of wave, right? And all injury comes from discordant feelings, right? Energetic frequencies. So if you've got an injury or a pain or whatever, and I do this with headaches, for example, feel deeply into that pain. Put your hand on it and feel the pain. Don't label it. Don't judge it, right? Because that keeps it fixed there. And feel into it. Feel deeper and deeper into the center of the center of the center of it. And you'll eventually get to oneness, the one energy that it's connected to at source. And then it starts to dissolve away, or you get an understanding of why it's there. And again, when you're in that oneness and you go deep and deep and deep, ask, why are you here? What are you trying to tell me? Right.
So get curious about it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. But do it when you're in an observant. Now, my spirit guide tells to me the act of being aware of your awareness is a heightened state of vibration, because so do it through an observational state or a state of peace at the very least. Be aware of when you're asking questions of your state first, state of mind and emotion first. Never do it when they're not working right, because you'll just get answers. And this is the thing that I would say 90% of people do. They feel lost. They try to go out, ask for questions. They'll turn to pulling out cards, oracle cards, or they'll turn to kind of like, what is the answer? And again, you get a reflection of what you internally feel back. So you're feeling lost, you're going to get answers that make you feel more lost. How many of you have done that? Turn to oracle cards. I feel really lost. And then it's a confused thing. Like, what do these mean? And it's like, again, because you're confused, you're going to get confusion, right? So we need to get ourselves back to that peace state, the observer state, and then we're going to get in, because that's all vibration setting, mindset and feel state setting, and that's within our control with practice. And again, this is where meditation comes in, which helps to build awareness and cohesion to the mind body spirit connection.
Yeah, that's very possible with the correct practice. I always think of practice as, my father told me when I was a young man, I never forgot that perfect practice makes perfect. For example, if you're learning to write on the keyboard and you're learning it incorrectly, you're not going to learn to type correctly. But if you learn correctly, then you'll learn to type very well. I guess we can call this a meta state. Meta means observing the observer. And what really amazed me, if I may bring up an example, is one day I went back to my room in Sedona, and I had just listened to Wayne Dyer do a seminar on what he calls remote viewing. And that's a really good example of being in a meta state, observing the observer. And he told us to go back to our room. They had rooms at Mago, the Korean retreat, west of Sedona, out in the hills. And I went back there and I sat on the edge of the bed and I wanted to observe myself. And immediately I went like 20 feet up and was looking at myself. And no thoughts, and then come to thoughts, and I came back. So being out of our head and being into a state of being present, being awareness. I just want to share that because what really amazed me was not so much the act itself, it was perfectly natural. But what amazed me was how easy it is when I didn't try too hard. I just did it. I decided to did it. I committed to it, and I just went into that field. And you could call that being. I was definitely in that a state of being what we call grounded. Now, in the morning, we have these practices, right, Adam? We have daily rituals that a lot of people don't, that allow us to reach these states. Every morning, I go out and after I prepare Brenda's breakfast and lunch and our mocha drink, I'll go out and I'll walk out to her car to start her car and put her lunch in the back seat. I'll walk on my Sedona Red Rock pathway barefoot. And it's like you go to the beach every morning. I don't care if it's freezing cold. I don't care if the dogs have spread gravel all over the rock. I want to be connected to the earth. And maybe a lot of people don't know there's literally an electronic connection. You can take a voltmeter and measure your connection with shoes, zero, bare feet on the stone. You have an electric ground. And so these practices are vital. And think about it. How long have humans been doing the practice of being grounded? Whoa, millions of years? I think so. And now we've got away from it. We've got Gucci shoes that left us away from the earth. I think Gucci is right. So we've got into the habit of being away. And, I think about what I hear a lot is this morning, yesterday, during group meetings, I hear, oh, so-and-so is actually the one who developed this practice, or so-and-so invented this. Well, they're looking at a timeline. Being grounded is something that humans have been doing for millions of years. And unfortunately, we're getting away from and we're in a danger state right now, a state of being misled, misinformed, miseducated, and not taught healthy practices. So that's basically what we're talking about. We're not talking about any woo-woo thing here, mind, body, spirit. We're talking about getting back to our natural state. Does that make sense?
Yeah, completely. It's one of those things I advocate. It's why I'm a bit of a barefoot champion myself in the context.
Yes, you are.
Always walking barefoot, sea swimming every morning, and I do my energetic chakra yoga, and I do DMT release breath work. I do that every single morning with a good half an hour, 40 minutes meditation, raising my frequency. But that's so much easier when we are connected to electromagnetic energy of the earth itself. We're electromagnetic beings. We need to ground ourselves. Most electricians would understand that you need to ground a plug, right? If we are an electromagnetic being, we do have electrical charge. So, and we're connecting to loads of things that have got electrical charge in it that gets put on us. And this is one thing that most people that are very intuitive and empathically open is that we get brain fog due to electromagnetic smog, right? It saturates our system. It interferes with our biofield. And we ourselves can often go to bed with sounds of like just all running around in your ears.
And we put a label on it, tinnitus.
That's right. You go outside barefoot, put your feet in the grass or in the soil, you'll find that after, 10 minutes even, you'll notice that
go away.
All clears down. It's all just noise of static all around your body. And it's energy. Now, you go watch, just look at grounding on YouTube if you want to do that. And you can see after just literally 10 to 20 minutes worth of putting you look at all of the blood vessels, all of the cells, they go from being clumped up to suddenly separated and moving really nicely. Simply because if you've got electrical charge, right, they repel each other. You've got cells with a solid electrical charge. They repel, and then things can move around smoothly. When they don't, and it's got a clumped up one, they all clump up and work together. And you know, and this is where we get this kind of feeling as well. And we live in constant Wi-Fi, constant technology, constant rubber, constant insulation, right? So it's going to have its effect.
And that's why, I'll do what I can to reduce the EMF and not electromagnetic field. For example, I use orgonite pyramids throughout the house and ranch that I get from a buddy of mine, Brandon Strabula in Sedona. So they're full of different kinds of metal, just things to help.
Yeah,
Not so much to help balance me, but to help again control our environment, because our environment has greatly changed. Now, I drive through town and I look at these houses with the big towers behind them. I'm like, oh my gosh, move. And I'm sometimes we're witness to people who don't control their environment, and it may kill them. I have a friend of mine, they're from Sweden, and they lived beneath the airport in Sedona. And Sedona Airport is on a mesa, at the top of a mesa, and it happens to be an extremely dangerous airport because of the winds and the updrafts. And there are some fatal accidents. But these friends of mine lived at the base of the mesa in this beautiful homestead in the woods, but they had these airplanes going over all the times. And the gentleman eventually developed seizures and he passed. And I was trying to, and me and other friends who were their yoga instructors were trying to convince the woman, yes, you need to leave your home. Your home is not healthy. This is not a healthy environment. And that's something that we didn't have to deal with a million years ago. UFOs? Yeah, probably. Other species. It's been my experience, and experience, not belief. But we've got to, watch our environment. And that's why I wanted to do this with you, Adam. This show is because mind, body, spirit cohesion, it's not something you do to get somewhere. It's something you do to help you to grow. I could say, yeah, to get to what you want, but it's really to get you away from, like you said, I like the way you put that, symptoms of lack of cohesion. Those symptoms are a lot greater, perhaps, than they used to be because we're exposed to a lot more than we used to. Like up in Washington, 3 Mile Island tragedy when they had the meltdown of the nuclear facility plant. And on the Dene Reservation, my wife is Dene. We call them Navajo. They call themselves Dene, the people, the older folks. They do a lot of uranium mining, and so there's a lot of issues there. I've noticed in a neighboring town, for example, that the town does not use its own water. It uses water pumped here from where I live in the Concho Hills. The water here is around 8.4 alkaline because of the sedentary clay base. But that town, I noticed there's a lot of people and animals. We've got 2 rescue horses from there that have had cancer in a big way. And it's like, gosh, you know what? If you need to change your environment, and that environment is all about the big red flags are symptoms of lack of cohesion, like you said. I love the way you described that. It's easy to integrate and understand. So if you recognize these symptoms, then you can start looking at your exterior environment, which is what I've been talking about, and also your interior environment, which you've delved into, and our ability to observe that is so important, to not hold these emotions in. And Adam, a moment of vulnerability here for me, which I'm pretty good at, being vulnerable, because I've been through hell and I know I created it and I love it and I'm grateful for the life I've had because it made me who I am. I look at the emotions that I was ignoring inside me and I appoint them to the symptoms that I have. I know there's something, I feel it in my head and my heart from my past and perhaps past lives, whatever. I feel there's something in me that I'm not dealing with, that I'm not looking deeply at, that I wasn't curious enough. I just want to work harder and let it go and say, I don't need this. I'll throw it away. I can overcome anything, but I'm not dealing with that ball and chain up, stuck up to my ass, and there's something, I know what it is, but it's hard to describe in the 3D. I have a gift where I can look at things. And growing up, I always saw things in color, right? I always saw people's energy. I saw people in color. I could see which people to run away from when I was a kid and which people were I want to get to know, which adults, because I could see the color of their energy. I always see things in color. And when we ignore these symptoms or these colors or however we see things, everybody sees things different. People with dyslexia and autism, they're nothing wrong with them. They're different and they see things differently and they learn things differently. And people, if somebody's hanging a label on you, if people call you ADHD, oh, I've never heard that less than 1,000 times, well, I've never seen it as a disadvantage, but I look for the advantages in it. I look at, all the, I have a whole list of incredible people like Einstein who were ADHD, labeled ADHD, but if there's something if you have a symptom of lack of cohesion, and a big symptom would be a physical symptom, then get curious at it. Like you say, Adam, really feel, where do you feel it in your body? Is it in your head? Is it in your heart? Is it in your stomach? Is it surrounding you? Where is it in your body or relation to your body? And then look deeply at it and don't ignore it. For me, why did I ignore it? Because I tend to procrastinate. I tend to want to let go of things I don't want to deal with. I just want to pretend they're not there. But that doesn't work, my friends. It didn't work for me. You know what it got me? It got me the calls from the doctor saying, Raphael, if you don't take this statin, you could drop dead or have a stroke any day. I'm like, at first I got afraid. Where does fear lead to? It led to anger for me. That's my go-to for fear. And so I said, F you, which means friend you, and hang up the phone and changed, stop going to doctors for another year. But I really needed to look at that. And I see that in my heart and in my head was a lack of cohesion in a big way. And when I saw that, Adam, my friends, then I look up over my computer screen to this beautiful mountain in the lake in front of me and the fields, and I see more beauty than I have for quite a while. And I think to myself, where did I lose that? When did I get away from that? When did I get so caught up in my circumstances and ignoring my past and what was inside me that I've done to myself, and how I was by practice and my environment and my education and my family and my relationships to myself and others and what relationships have done to me. When did I stop ignoring that to where I want to be the person I am inside my heart? I want to serve mankind. I love the earth. I love every species. Yes, I have a large worm farm that I rescued from a friend of ours who was killed. And I rescued her worm farm because they were dying. And I do animal rescue. We do horse rescue. I love these things. Sometimes, okay, you mentioned it sounds like a love-hate relationship I have with these poor blind and lame horses, well, they can be very difficult, but they're only difficult if I ignore the fact that they're teaching me to be present, and aggression and violence will never helps. which is why I changed farrier recently. Our new farrier, it's just the horses just, he blames them, but they didn't have a problem with the last farrier. So I'm bringing the other farrier back in, So look at these symptoms and look in your heart where your strength lies, where your love lies. You talked about, I like to hear a little more about that before we end, Adam. You talk about the different levels of consciousness. Don't look for questions when you're in a state of frustration. I did that in 2019 when I was yelling at the angels. Why are you doing this to me? Why are you giving me these visitations and these messages and showing me these unbelievable things? And I don't know what to do with them. And they yell back at me because you keep asking. Guess what? Keep asking, my friends. But do it from a state of love, of peace, of joy, of oneness with all, with the higher states of consciousness. And that comes from my heart. Can you?
I'd like to delve into that a little bit, because they keep asking, let's deeply understand that the universe, different entities do not use English or any other human language.
Right.
We keep asking because we keep having that same feeling or vibration or belief in us. That's how we're asking. If we've constantly got the same belief of who we are and what we deserve in us, we are asking for that to be given to us. That is how we keep asking for it, right? We're not asking for it verbally, consciously.
Right. I had no idea I was asking. Right. I didn't. Yeah.
All of us, and this will be a hard pill to swallow for most people. All of us are asking for exactly the lifestyle we have right now. We just need to figure out how we're asking for that, right? In order to do that, we need to have the cohesion, right? We need to have this self-awareness of this cohesive state. And again, into vibrational setting, this is something we just need to get used to, right? We ultimately, if we want to believe in the conditioning that gets us further and further away from our true sovereign self of the soul, if we want to believe that we'll find happiness through a Big Mac meal, or we'll find happiness through status or that perfect person or whatever, we are following the analogy of I'll feel happy when, right? And we are putting our emotions into a trap, a mind trap, right? Essentially, we can feel happiness, fulfillment, peace just with a switch. We just need to practice feeling feelings without a reason or a cause. Just feel feelings and enjoy the act of feeling them. And it's a lost art, because this is going to be, when did you last feel the inside of the middle of your index finger? When did you sit down and feel it? And then feel into the knuckle connected to it. And then just allow yourself, just for fun, just for experience, to just feel your body, do a body scan. And there's a beautiful moment of playfulness, almost joy, to just literally allow yourself to feel what you actually are. And the act of observing, like we mentioned, the meta state, observing the observer, feeling your body without judging it. That's the key point. Don't judge. Don't try to find problems. All right. Whatever you focus on grows, right? Just feel what you are, right? And that's joyous. And if you just allow yourself to feel without judgment, without the mind getting in the way, just feel, you'll notice that you can feel like little flows of energy that might just sort of buzz around your head, or that run up and down your body, or when you feel your spine, you'll be like, oh, that's interesting. And if you just enjoy it like an observer, you'll realize that you can actually just feel good quite quickly if you get out of the way.
Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you. And you asked, when's the last time I felt the middle of my index finger? Well, it was about a week and a half ago when you told me to. But yeah, feeling your body, becoming aware of yourself, just that observer state is a beginning. And I hope everybody on here, thank you so much for your insight, your experience, and your wisdom, Adam. This has been beautiful. And it's been so simple, because I am here right now, and I hope a lot of people who watch this on YouTube later are are feeling themselves. And
Yeah.
it's up to you what you want to feel, how you look at it. Because I've noticed that people's perceptions change with their belief. Now, if you want to feel like a meat sack, then you can feel like that. But if you just observe yourself, the deeper you observe, you'll see that you are energy. And that's the importance. And as we welcome people into a spiritual state, and which I see as the only way the human race will survive, is for us to evolve our vibration, our oscillation, as you say, Adam, which is a very good another podcast.
It is indeed.
Then, as we observe that, then we can grow and we can overcome. Our inner world can control. I mean, our inner world does control our outer world. And all we're doing is getting people to recognize that.
Yes.
And, this is why people in thousands of years ago became enlightened. I once mentioned in a podcast with another Leonard about being present that I felt like he was saying that we're ready to move into the new era. And I said, well, I think we've always been ready. Well, that was kind of a misnomer because what I really meant was some of us have always been ready. Obviously, in the past, this gentleman called Jesus, Buddha, Gandhi, and so everybody is, all I want to point out is that everybody's on the same journey. Nobody's better than anybody else. Nobody's ahead. They might just be further down that hiking path. They've been on the path a little longer. So it doesn't do any good to judge the circumstance or judge others or judge ourselves or even judge our very experience, but to observe it and observe where these symptoms are deeply rooted so that we can release them and empower ourselves in a sense. And so before I get on too much of a rabbit trail there, I just want to say thank you for pointing out that about this observing state that we're all asking for the life that we have. Wow, isn't that huge? We are reflecting the outer is reflecting our inner. And if you think about that, folks, I'll say in closing, have you noticed that everything I look at things different way. Everything that happens in my life, every single second, this second right now, is happening for a reason. And sometimes I'll go out and I'll have maybe what people call a bad day. I've had a lot of things pop up. It's because I was, like I'm going to the gym and I'm going, oh boy, I bet somebody's going to go to 30-minute workout and they'll be going the wrong way again, or they'll be jumping in the machine ahead of me, not being to pay attention to the red and green lights. Sure enough, there it is. But if I'm excited, I go there with love. And because I just came out of a meeting with somebody, wow, things change. Our environment changes. Yeah.
It
And
deeply does. If we believe we're in a friendly universe, we are. If we believe we're in
yes.
a corrupt universe, we will prove that true. You know, um, so we just need to be very, very aware of what we really believe, what we consciously believe, and also subconsciously believe. And that's an area
Mhm.
which I like to work on. This is why I am a coach, because I help people become aware of their subconscious beliefs that are in many ways sabotaging their life. And that's what I feel coaches do, is they help with that journey. So this was the part I was on, my reflection on our belief systems. Many people might agree with it that, I maybe my internal belief systems, beliefs from my trauma or beliefs from my past are affecting me, but how do I deal with that? First of all, how can I become aware of it? And how can I deal with it? And again, it's one of those things that I think that many people don't realize that they're suffering from arrogance when they do not allow themselves to be helped. If they're the helper and their identity is the helper, most helpers are the ones that need the help most, right? They feel that they should be able to fix themselves. And that's a sign of a blocked heart chakra. You're able to give, but you cannot receive, right? Allow others to help you see your own blind spots. I've done it. I've talked to coaches myself, spiritual coaches that do the same thing that I do, and it was brilliant because I was able to receive that which I give to others, and it gives me a deeper appreciation of the power and the beauty of it. And we're a planet that are full of people that are supposed to be a tribe that are all here to help each other, right? We're not supposed to be islands that just fix ourselves. Now, I'm not saying release autonomy. You got to go out there and do the stuff that we require to help you to grow and to release it, but allow others to help us on that growth journey. That's what love contribution is all about.
And that's why I love doing this show, because I learn so much. And that's what we call our clients. We got to find out real quick when we get a coaching client, we got to find out if they're coachable or not. Are they going to stand there and say, the war cry of failure? And there's nothing wrong with failure. It's just part of growth. It means you're trying. I know that already, Raphael. Get to the meat. I know that. We got to be careful. So, Adam, and you are remarkable at helping people discover their whys and their obstacles and challenges. So, you got some new programs going on, don't you? You just did a business launch, and you've got a couple of new programs and support groups.
That's right. Yes. I mean, you can find all of it on my website. It's probably easier to just go there. That's www.adam-leonard.com. Adam-leonard.com. That's right. I've got an ebook that's all about mind body cohesion, actually, specifically designed for spiritually empathic people. I've got a Facebook group where it's all about bringing high vibe people that are empathic, spiritual, that want to give their gift to the world together and supporting each other. And I've got workshops coming out as well. All of that is all on my website. So you can go there, check it out. Again, that's www.adam-leonard.com.
And what's the name of your Facebook group again?
It's the Soul Growth Sanctuary.
Soul Growth Centric.
Sanctuary.
Oh, Century.
Sanctuary, as in a safe haven, like a sanctuary.
Oh, sanctuary. Okay, sorry.
Sanctuary, yes. Soul Growth Sanctuary.
Soul Growth Sanctuary. This is interesting. I was in a meeting with Kane Minkus of Industry Rockstar. I was sitting in the room with them, and Kane's really good at talking to different people with different dialects. And I've always had a problem with that. And I was sitting next to Linda Colasante, who I did a podcast with before. She's a dyslexia expert. And I kept asking Linda, what did he say? Or what did so-and-so say with a different accent? I didn't understand. And I'd be sitting right next to somebody in the groups, and I'd say, what did she say, this or that? And I said, I'm sorry, I have a hearing problem. And Linda told me, she goes, Raphael, I don't think you have a hearing problem. She goes, I think you just are different from people. And then so I looked into it, and people who have, been labeled as ADHD, which I never accepted and never will, but it's just a symptom. And I looked into it, and people who with ADHD are very different when they share things. They don't learn so well that way. They have to slow it down. When I look at things visually, boom, I learn things real quick. If I listen to somebody who's speaking and don't look at them, then I can remember what they say. If I listen to somebody or if I read something, when I was a kid, I had a photographic memory. I always had A's. I never did my homework because I remember what they said. But I've always had a problem when somebody's talking in a crowded room or something, or with a different dialect. I have issues with that. So, and it's good to recognize these things. And Linda Colasanti is a dyslexia expert. She says, Raphael, I think you just have problems translating, integrating the verbal, the sound training. I think you're better at other trainings. And so I have to pay a lot of attention, and interact. But when I read something, I can almost, when I was younger, I could repeat the chapters to you almost, So thank you for that. And your Facebook group is Soul Growth Sanctuary. Your website is adam-leonard.com. And you've got a lot of things going on right now. You've got some workshops. You just released your ebook. What's the name of the ebook?
The Empowered Spiritual Empath.
The Empowered Spiritual Empath. Now, you might imagine that really speaks to me. I got to grab that book. I've been meaning to, because I definitely consider myself an empath. There's many different ways to describe the different clairs that we have. I am more clairvoyant and clairsentient. I definitely see things. Could you describe empath to us before we say goodbye?
Yeah. There are people that have essentially a highly sensitive clairsentient ability. First of all, a sensitive nervous system that's able to clearly read and feel through their electromagnetic field, right? So they're naturally healers also. They have deep levels of compassion and understanding for all life in all forms. Many empaths feel deeply, strongly for all animals, nature in itself, and they often try to heal those that, abuse them in the process. They're often attracted towards abusers or those kind of things because they are here to deeply heal. Many of them have natural psychic abilities, intuitive abilities, but they're often led from the heart. In many cases, they're overgivers and overpleasers as well. Okay, but this book, it's only a small read. It's a quick read, deliberately, because in this world, many people have got magpie syndrome, where they just go from one flashy thing to another, right? I wanted to make it a clear, concise, but impactful book that specifically helps people that resonate with what I've just described there. And these people, spiritual empaths, often feel alone, feeling things, seeing things and they feel different to everyone else. They don't fit with the normal society. They don't understand why society is not more compassionate and understanding than it is. They often feel alone. They don't know how to find their purpose, etc. And this is what this book's orientated around, to try to empower, boost, and give some tips to those people.
Thank you, Adam. That's beautiful. And I'm going to put this on the YouTube channel and make sure everybody's able to see this without having to register for this meeting, which apparently we've had some problems with lately. I'll see you again, my friend, and I'm so glad to have you in my relationships and environments.
And you, my friend. Friend forever. We're part of a soul tribe, right?
Yes, we are. EMF and the whole human race. Later, my friends.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.